starting. We're starting right now. We're recording. Enough of the bullshit.
Enough chit chat.
This is a 6-man tag podcast.
Enough
damn it.
didgeridoo.
I hit record.
I have a didgeridoo.
Well, pull it out.
I don't have it.
Phrasing. He didn't pull it out. You know that on YouTube.
I don't have it.
Anyway.
Hi, welcome back, Mike.
Oh, hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for taking over last week.
Yeah, not a problem.
When I couldn't be here, shit happens.
Had to do a show without Big Brucey.
Mm.
I think Skylar and I handled it pretty well. You guys can let us know in the comments.
I mean, I'm a little pissed off my plan failed, but I mean, it was a great episode.
I thought we did a pretty good job.
Listen, it was good. If you missed it last week, go in the archives and check it out. It's weird saying that because technically we're recording this when the episode hasn't even come out yet. So I'm doing the whole.
Don't tell them that.
Whatever, man. Peek behind the curtain. Who cares?
Insider baseball.
Kayfabe is real, motherfucker. Let's go.
Like, oh man, we taped. Like, I can't believe we taped Raw the same night as last week. But no, we didn't. That shit's gonna air in a week. Anyway, I'm Mike. Joining me as always, it's CJ.
What's up, everybody? CJ Dorian, aka Craig Francis. Proud to be with you here, boys. Glad to be here again. We're talking some more wrestling for you. I think we got a good episode for you tonight. Special episode to us because every episode's special. And speaking of special, coming up next, our man of 1,001 intros, Mr. Skylar Strange.
Well, everybody have a good evening. I'm joining you live in the studio. Here we are with the 6-man Paw Regional Podcast Wrestling Podcast. Joined here with my the ever effervescent Craigie Craig and Bruce the Veej. And this gig is paying me way better than the things I was doing up in Utica, being demeaned by various people I paid money to demean me.
Utica's a rough town, bud.
Riveting.
That's a teaser for a future episode, possibly.
Very possible.
If you know, you know.
And if you
don't,
then you don't.
But we're not talking about that today. If you read the caption before you clicked on this episode, then today we're talking about factions, specifically factions of the 1980s and 1990s. To be honest, it's because we would be here for way too long if we went over.
We strictly play 80s Joel, sir. Sorry, couldn't resist.
Do the evolution one. No.
Evolution is a mystery. That one? That's a faction, but we're not going to get into that because as you, Mike, said, we're going to talk about mostly 80s and 90s today. And it's funny, man. We were just before the episode just going over a bunch of stuff we kind of forgot about.
We found some doozies.
Diving into this, yeah.
And also, if someone wants to keep counting this episode, how many times something inadvertently comes up that is from after the 90s, then keep counting. Let us know because I guarantee it's going to happen.
And keep counting. Let us know because I guarantee you we're not going to give a shit.
Also true. Yeah.
Closest without going over gets a prize.
You know what? Price is right rules. Fuck it. Let's go.
$1.
Put your bids in now. You have to put them in. You have to timestamp them in for the first 2 minutes before we actually get into it, though. So put those bets in.
We'll give you a moment now. Take it.
That might be copyrighted.
Let's not.
You're humming it though. Fair use act, whatever the fuck that is. Whatever people throw on their videos when they post something.
Yeah.
I'm gonna steal this. I'm gonna steal this entire clip, but I'm gonna post that it's a fair use thing, and I'm not gonna get dinged for it.
There you go.
That's all you have to do. So whatever fair use rule from whatever year it was passed, blah blah blah, all that. But we're talking factions. I guess I'll start before we get into just like a listing factions. Let's go over it. I'll throw it to Skylar. What's the main purpose of a faction in wrestling? You're looking at me like a fucking deer in headlights, like I'm about to ask you, like I don't even know what.
No, I'm good.
What's your soch?
Like, yeah, like I'm gonna fucking steal your identity.
Here's the rails. We're there somewhere.
Yeah. But what's the purpose of a faction ultimately? Like, what do you think what's the ultimate goal? Because listen, factions have been around. We're clearly talking about the 80s and 90s, and you can even go before that if you want, but we're not going to do that. And factions still exist today. But what's the ultimate goal of a faction to you?
I would say the ultimate goal of a faction is a group of wrestlers, managers, and or authority figures meeting together for a common goal, whether it be gold, money, takeover, something along those lines. Gang violence in some cases in the 90s.
Gang bangs
Mm,
in the 90s.
also, yes.
Mid late 90s. I would say that's kind of definition.
All right. CJ, what do you think?
I didn't pull up Webster's for this, so I don't know.
No, I think that's fair. Just like Skylar said, I think on top of everything that Skylar said, I think they're also good for like a story driving device. I think it's obviously good when you have guys who are aligned, and you can do so much with that, because obviously you can fight other guys who are aligned in another group. You can have kind of the intergroup discrepancies and anger issues kind of boil over, stuff like that. So there's a lot you can do with factions. So I enjoy factions. That for me personally, I spent the better half of my wrestling career in a faction, PRR Incorporated, and I do mean the better half, because that's where we started putting some wins together, boys. So
right.
But I really enjoyed kind of being part of that, and I remember just cutting promos with Andy was part of that. Obviously, you guys know my boy Patrick Richard Ream, who could cut a great promo. I didn't feel like I needed a mouthpiece when I got him, but he didn't hold me down at all. If anything, he made me better. So, because we got to challenge each other. So big shout out to him as well. But yeah, I think that's basically the cut and dry of factions when you come down to it,
I think, and I mean, I'll answer my own question, just my opinion. I think maybe more so now, it's just a good way to, one, get guys on TV, get guys on the card. If you have like your top stars in a faction, it's probably good to have a lesser guy, not to necessarily just like eat the pin all the time, but I do think that tends to happen a lot. A lesser guy is usually the one getting pinned in certain, whether it be like big tag team matches or something. But also, listen, you look at, I know we're talking about 80s and 90s, but something like Evolution is probably the best example that I have off the top of my head of, a veteran, a current guy, and then two young guys who you're trying to get over. And in a case like that, it worked perfectly.
Because you got literally the gimmick too.
Right. Exactly. But I ultimately think like that's a goal of a faction, is take someone maybe struggling a little bit. Not that Randy Orton and Batista, or maybe Batista was, but not necessarily struggling, but give them an identity, give them like, something to get them over a little quicker, a little better. And,
I will say another current example, take a shot, put a number down, whichever. Anything really Chris Jericho is trying to do right now? I mean, look at his current one and look at the Inner Circle.
Yeah, no, he's been doing it his whole AEW run. But to me, I think trying to get new guys over is a good way for a faction to go.
I mean, I could think of a good couple examples in the 90s, since we're talking about that.
Oh yeah, no.
Is that my cue to start with one?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Rightio. How about let's start with the Nation of Domination.
This is this is a great example. Like, I think at the time, Farouk, even though he had been a world champion in WCW, he's new to the WWF audience at the time, even though they made reference to him being a world champion in some promos, especially in like 96, 97. But
which a lot of people, I feel, totally forget or just don't even know that.
I just think because like
Ron Simmons is the first African-American world champion, basically.
Right. I think it's not necessarily that it's forgotten. I just think, especially at the time, that early 90s WCW wasn't really that popular. I don't think it had a super big reach. at the time. I mean, I know, TBS is a nation, but I think ultimately it just wasn't that popular.
I mean, eventually they'll get there with another group that is inevitably going to get mentioned.
I guess we'll bring them up at some point later. But
Yes.
no, the nation's a good place to start because I mean, I'm trying to think of as far as like faction feuds. I think they feuded with DX. Well, DX is self-explanatory, but I think especially everything that they stood for, which listen, I think we've talked about it on this show before, the stuff that they did with the nation and then being heels in 1997, just some of that stuff probably doesn't play today. Although not that the stuff they did doesn't hold up. I think like if you introduce that group in 2022, it's just I don't know if it either one works or if they are even heels because
we've said that before, and it's
right.
It's kind of like a half joke because you kind of say that like obviously they were playing heel characters, so it's like kind of a joke to say like would they even be heels? Obviously playing the characters if they were booked exactly the same, they'd still be heels.
Right.
But the realistic thing is, like you said, like culture's changed a lot since the days of the Nation of Domination.
Right.
And I just don't see I don't see putting a group of mostly African Americans together because there was a few Caucasians in the group. You had Owen Hart and Crush, one of the original members, which I forgot about until you mentioned before the show that Crush was in the Nation. But other than that, you have mostly African Americans in the group, and they're basically fighting against the white man in most of their promos, they would say. And yeah, I feel like nowadays, like Mike, I think you're 100% right. Most of the people would just be like, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Fuck those guys. Like, they got what's coming to them.
Right. They'll be heel characters, but will they get over as heels? I don't know. They'll probably get the cheers. Yeah. But the way the group evolved was perfect for how a faction should go too. Eventually they overthrow their leader, Farouk.
Yeah.
For
Rocky.
Who's that guy? What's he done?
Die, Rocky, die.
Yeah, right. Rocky
what's
sucks.
actually amusing is first off, for those of you who are living under a rock, we are referring to the future of the Rock. I didn't even think of that when I just said that just now. Dwayne Johnson.
It's wild to me that there's like kids that have there's like a whole generation of people that like at this point don't know he was a wrestler,
let alone like one of the biggest of all time.
Exactly.
But actually he was the Rock by the time he kicked Farouk out.
He was, yep.
So because they had to just,
right, they had to do something,
and history was made. And actually, technically, the group got a little more successful when Rock took over. He himself, first off, young guy at the time. What, he had to have been like 22, 23, somewhere in that area,
mid-20s, because he's like
maybe 25
now.
at most.
I'm pretty sure he was in his young 20s at this point. Like I would say 24 tops.
Yeah. But he was a young guy who got over with this group with the veterans in Farouk and Kama Mustafa, who has had a million gimmicks that people fail to remember.
Which of course,
Good Father.
Yes, the
Papa
Good Father.
Shango.
Oh, speaking of the Good Father, coming up later.
WrestleMania main event participant Papa Shango.
Yes.
But also
wait, hold on. Go on. Wait, I don't recall this. Who did he face at WrestleMania?
Oh, he didn't face anyone.
I thought he faced Taker. I thought Papa Shango faced Taker at some point.
Probably.
I think he did, but not.
Well, I mean, I thought it was Mania, but it might not be a Mania match. Yeah.
He ran in during Hogan and Sid. I'm not saying it was a good thing.
Okay.
Because first off, he totally missed his cue.
And in the ring was Hogan and Psycho Sid.
Mm-hmm. And basically it was just to build to the return of Ultimate Warrior.
Makes sense.
Who also sucks. Sorry, yes. I don't get me wrong, as a kid I love Warrior, but I think as we all grew up we all realized exactly why we loved Warrior and why we don't anymore.
Yes. But also while he was in charge, D'Lo Brown, another young guy who wait, hold on. CJ, 1, 2, 3.
I love D'Lo. I'm a big.
I love D'Lo. Love
D'Lo.
Mark. He won the European title a couple times, and
looking at the real
deal now. Fuck.
Well, Now we have different intro music for this week.
I almost just had a spit take right here on air, boys.
Oh man.
So
Same time. I got you.
And really in the long run, think about it. 2 future world champions came out of there.
Mark Henry
and
some other bum.
some other guy.
This Rock dude.
I think at the time, I think both WWE and Farouk Ron Simmons knew that Rocky was going to be a huge star. I know I've seen interviews where Farouk said that he wanted to put Rocky over and he wanted to get kicked out of the group and let Rocky lead it because he felt like Rocky was going to be a big star. And I'd say they placed their chips in the right spot on that one, boys.
Absolutely. And you know what? Farouk, Ron Simmons, fine career in his own right.
Absolutely. As we mentioned before, first African-American world champ. And that was in a time, keep in mind, back where that happened in WCW, not WWE.
The
WCW,
Southern one.
Exactly. I was just about to say WCW mostly toured in the South. It wasn't the friendliest place for black wrestlers back in the day. I've seen numerous interviews where guys would say, like, we hated working there in the 80s and 90s. We would get spit at, we would get called the N-word, we would get chased in the parking lot. And it was just for them to put the World Heavyweight Championship on Ron Simmons at that time. And I think we've all seen the match, or at least like the finish of the match, the clip.
One of the most impressive power slams I've ever seen.
That's true too. Yes, obviously. But on top of that, like the roof blew off the place.
Oh yeah.
Like Ron Simmons was over as fuck in a place where a lot of black wrestlers weren't at the time. And
I actually watched some of the promos leading up to the match, and that played into the story there.
Yeah. And obviously good on WCW for doing it at that time and doing it with that guy. WWE took them about 15, 20 more years before they made their first black champ, but you know,
who was it?
Semantics.
Booker T,
the first African-American world champion. No, well, I'm WWE champion because there has been African-American world heavyweight champions, but like, you know how they always held like the WWE title was supposed to be like the bigger one, whatever the bigger one was. It wasn't until
do they count Rock?
No. Well, I mean, but I'm saying like the first 100% African American. I know, like, I can't remember I'm trying to remember who it was. I'll look it up. I'll figure it out.
No. Now I'm stuck on this.
I'm trying to figure this out.
It was so
might
much
have been
longer,
Mark
though.
Henry.
That's what I think. Like,
the
WWE he was
title?
world heavyweight.
Kofi
or Bobby Lashley.
Well, Kofi was champion before Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, I know. I think it was Kofi. Yeah, because they made a big deal out of it. He was the first African WWE champion, which, you know, because he actually is African. That's right. What they were saying. But like on top of that, he's the first ever like black wrestler to win the WWE championship.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So it's funny how all the nation stuff, and then 20 years later.
Not to mention, everyone thought when the New Day was forming, it was going to be like a new nation.
Which we're saying it wouldn't have worked. Like
obviously not.
If they
they kind of turned out okay.
I love New Day. I'm a huge New Day.
We'll cover.
Well,
that's one.
Well, we'll get to that next week.
Next time.
But I just kind of to pivot back to the topic on hand. One thing that the Nation of Domination, you could say, editorialized way was they kind of led way to the gang violence atmosphere that was going on in the 90s, and they feuded with guys like Disciples of the Apocalypse. And let's get into our next one, the Generation X.
Now you're talking. Obviously, I'm just gonna jump in here for a second because DX obviously huge. For me, I was a huge DX fan. Shawn Michaels obviously being my favorite. Loved everything about DX when I was a kid. We all did the suck it chops. We all did the got 2 words for you. I got in trouble so many times for doing shit like that in school, or just at birthday parties or anywhere I was.
You know who the most underrated member of DX was?
China.
Nope.
Who?
Rick Rude.
Yeah, well, that's fair, but unfortunately,
I know
that did not last very long. And
yes, I know.
Rick Rude jumped ship anyway. He was in WCW anyway. So
yeah, I know. I just find it amusing that Rick Rude was an original member of DX.
Can we talk
What's-
about real while we're on the topic of Rick Rude? The funniest part about that whole situation was that how he was on Raw doing a promo with DX while he was debuting on
Yeah,
WCW.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Same
Oh
night.
yeah. We know about that one.
Taped, pal.
Yep.
What's your like? What's the better, I guess, version of DX? The original, the OG, or the Triple H led one?
OG.
I mean, it's actually I'll be honest with you, it's kind of hard for me to pick because I was such a huge fan of the New Age Outlaws as well.
Right.
And Triple H and everything. Even X-Pac, like I never understood the X-Pac heat. I never understood it. And I know like
I understood it later on because I think people just sometimes people just get tired of a guy.
He was to the mid card what Triple H's Reign of Terror was to the main event scene.
all right, I kind of get that. He kind of politicked himself into the way of the top of the mid.
And basically it was like put over everyone just instead of the main event scene, basically right below
Right.
that.
I get that, but like I didn't hate X-Pac as a kid. I didn't hate watching him wrestle. I thought he was entertaining, and like
I didn't dislike
I haven't
him.
watched a lot of his matches recently, but I still remember him being entertaining.
My dislike of him came around 2000.
Okay,
I
prior
think that's for everybody.
Yeah, prior to that, I don't really have much qualms with X-Pac. I thought he was fine. I thought he was really good early in his run in DX. I like the tag team with Kane.
yeah,
That's an underrated storyline also. Kane and X-Pac.
I agree with you 100%. That was one of my favorite storylines as a kid.
Yeah.
Kane and X-Pac and Tori Wilson. Don't
And
forget
Tori.
being involved.
Not Tori Wilson.
Not Tori Wilson.
Not Tori Wilson. Tori. I forgot there was another Tori before Tori Wilson.
Who, side note, she was fine. Anyway.
All the Tories are fine.
Yes. 100% agreed. Anyway. So DX, obviously, one of the more controversial stables. I mean, that was kind of their thing, really.
I think that's why not that the original one is better, but all that stuff when they were feuding with the USA Canada stuff, all the feuding with like Bret Hart and everyone. And then
we'll address
because
that
like
soon.
because before they were like officially DX and like doing their thing, like they were just like obviously there's countless interviews of like, all right, well, we're just kind of popping each other, so let's just do this on TV and see what happens. Like some of that OG stuff is so good, whether it's like the strip poker or the Sergeant Slaughter promo with the face visor and the windshield wipers, or like just some of that one Raw, the Christmas Raw, where they just had the fucking thongs on, whatever the fuck they did with that.
I remember that. Yeah.
All that stuff was so good. It doesn't make it hard to choose one for the other, but some of that OG stuff,
I will say
that beginning stuff was so good.
The comedy stuff they did, especially back then, was definitely the best because I feel like one, they were really obviously trying to push the envelope, and I think they had a lot more slack to do so because I think like Vince kind of was just like, all right, Sean, he's doing his thing, but he's Sean, so what am I going to say to him? But again, like I was just such a fan of like that whole faction in general when they were all teamed up together with the Outlaws and with Pac and all that stuff. So it's hard for me to like choose one over the other, but just the whole thing in general, I thought was just obviously it's one of my favorite groups of all time. So
also, sorry, underrated thing. I think it was that same Christmas Raw, the HBK Triple H European title match when they pretty much just mocked Warrior squashing Triple H at Mania 12 in the ring when everyone thought they were going to fight and blow up.
So now here's a question though, while we're on the topic of DX. Do we talk about the DX reunion or do we save that for the next episode?
I mean, let's save it because I feel like I have, my own opinions on it, but let's
DX reunion
save it.
was basically a tag team.
Oh yeah,
it was,
obviously it was, but it's still DX. It still warrants talking about.
Yes,
they still did like some similar things. But
so I think my argument for the original DX was one, I felt it was edgy, even in a way for today would be kind of edgy. Well, probably more cheesy today, but whatever.
The press conference. Think like that's the first thing I think of. Like
Exactly.
that shit would never fly today.
Nope. But also, I feel like I like early on when X-Pac and the New Age Outlaws joined in early on, but later on, I felt like once they kind of just became the McMahon Helmsley era or regime or whatever, it didn't do much for me. Also, Billy Gunn was kind of also out pretty quickly too.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure they kind of like broke away from that at that point. Once the Stephanie McMahon, the McMahon Helmsley era kind of started, DX kind of just like kind of split. Anyway,
the McMahon Helmsley era was almost like a perfect transition from DX into that, because he was still doing like that DX thing of like, oh hey, look at me, I'm a clown, which if you want to, I mean, listen, people suspend their disbelief, but if you want to look at the whole, hey, I drugged this girl and I took her to a drive-in chapel to marry her. I mean, it's pretty, whatever the cultural opinion on that aside, you're not getting away with that today. No. But I feel like that still had the DX like joking aspect of it, even though he was he was a heel, right? They hated it.
No, because Vince McMahon was the heel.
Oh fuck, you're right. But that whole thing feels weird now, trying to like describe it, just because like because Test was a babyface and all that.
Yes.
But Vince was the heel, and this really got under Vince's skin more than anything.
That's true.
I think
it was. I do think
the main event of Armageddon '99 was Triple H and Vince.
Yeah, because this was, I feel like it was like one of the Bruce Pritchard podcasts recently where he said like, yeah, Test wasn't ready, so this was their way of sort of like booking him out of that. Like, sure, he's mad, but ultimately the heat's on Triple H and Vince McMahon instead, and Test is sort of like lost, and I guess that was their way to like, I guess, get him out of it. But it is what it is. But to your point, yes, it was like the perfect transition from that DX stuff into what Triple H kind of became in the year in like that year 2000 run, where he was like first becoming world. Yeah, before he had the Motorhead theme song, whatever that was.
Yeah, but the first theme, actually, I really like Triple H's My Time theme.
Oh, My Time is one of the best entrance themes ever. I think we talked about that on the entrance podcast in the archives.
Go
back and look for him.
Love My Time. But that was the beginning of the game era, because if you remember, like the Titantron started with the whole game start.
Yep.
So that was the beginning of the game, was the McMahon Helmsley era.
So it was a nice transition into that, which obviously we know what became the whole Stephanie turn. Oh look, I kind of like this guy now. We knew where that went. But I'll tell you what, a lot of that stuff happened in the year 2000 or later, which isn't what we're talking about today.
Did you just hit yourself on your microphone?
I got real close, but I didn't make contact.
I thought you like smacked your tooth on it or something.
I had $1 for every time I heard that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I had a point. Now I kind of lost it because I got sidetracked by you trying to deep throat your mic.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, you know what? Here's a good segue into that though. So we brought up Test. We brought up that whole thing. Test obviously being a member of the corporation, the corporate ministry. That started in the late 90s, right? The corporation and all that stuff. Right?
Oh yeah.
Or am I getting my dates wrong? Yeah, I was gonna say that was in the 90s.
That was basically 98, 99, more or less.
That's what I thought. Okay. So there you go. How about the corporation next? How about we talk about those guys? To me, real quick, my opinion, I felt like the corporation was the storyline answer to Stone Cold Steve Austin. I felt like that was the main story behind them, was that they were just basically a squad put together by Vince to try to crush Steve Austin. But they all had their own runs. They all had their own stories going on the sideline. I think we talked just a couple weeks ago about Big Boss Man feeding Al Snow his dog while he was a member of the corporation. So that's just one thing.
That's right, kids. That happened.
Yep. But yeah, what do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of the corporation?
Well, I'll say this. Rock obviously pulled a double whammy with factions pushing him over, because the corporation is how he became WWF champion.
That's right. Yeah.
And for a while, he was the youngest WWF champion.
He sold his soul to the devil himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because we needed a repeat of the Montreal Screwjob a year later.
It was like
Was that a year later? That's kind of weird that they literally tried to.
Yeah, that happened
They
97.
that.
That Survivor Series was 98.
Wow.
With the sharpshooter.
Yeah.
There was so much to like the corporation. I feel like that whole timeline just kind of runs together with the corporation, the corporate ministry, and all that. Like the corporation obviously feuded with Stone Cold, Mankind, DX, which we say corporate ministry a bunch of times, but we're forgetting that other side of the corporate ministry, the Ministry of Darkness.
Yes.
If we transition into that, which of course is.
Love the Ministry of Darkness.
Undertaker had a great, speaking of themes, Undertaker had a great one with that. That
was the one that had like all the rock and guitars in it and stuff.
Yes.
Too. It was like very like rock heavy. Yeah. I love the corporation. I love the Ministry of Darkness. I remember the whole angle that kind of started that. And it's funny because like it's what led into the corporate ministry with it was me all along, Austin. But the ministry abducting Stephanie McMahon, Stone Cold making the save. I remember there was a lot of guys in the ministry that I really liked. Some of my favorite wrestlers were some of those darker kind of gothic characters. Gangrel, The Brood, Undertaker, obviously. Like Shawn Michaels was my favorite. Undertaker was my number 2 when I was a kid. So it was like for me, anything
don't forget the acolytes with those weird symbols.
As I was just about to say, Ron Simmons again coming into the picture here with the acolytes, which turned
Midian
into
and
another
Viscera.
great team in the APA where they had some of the best stage segments of all time.
Midian and Viscera.
I was gonna say Midian too, but like I was gonna say like my favorite's Midian, obviously, but
by the way,
I remember when they abducted Big Vis. He wasn't even Viscera. He was still Mabel at the time.
Yep.
And they literally just put him in a trance, kidnapped him, got him backstage. I don't know, like they all carried that big man out of the fucking place.
Some of the shit they did.
Next time he was on TV, he was Viscera. And I was just like, what did and again, as a kid, keep in mind, I'm thinking like a lot of this shit is real. I'm like, what did they do to that guy? Like they fucking turned him into a monster. What happened?
By the way, I also kind of want to point out that even though he was already like a 2-time world champion at that point, I would say Ministry of Darkness was like the launching point for the Undertaker. Like I feel like that was like he turned into like the heel more or less, and his character just became like, instead of just the dead man, he was like this psychotic, like ruthless, like cult leader practically.
Yeah. I think it was definitely a good opportunity for him to kind of step into the light more. Like you said, Skylar, he was a champion before, but with that angle, I feel like the way you kind of said it, like it was kind of a turning point for him. Cause I feel like after, like once the ministry happened and then the corporate ministry happened and yada, yada, yada. I feel like that's kind of the better half, so to speak, of Undertaker's career. Once you get past that, because that's really where he has some of his best WrestleMania matches. After that, I feel like the ones before that, obviously, Giant Gonzalez and
the WrestleMania matches with him got good once they acknowledged the streak.
Exactly. And I feel like that was around that time where the ministry really kind of took off and they really started kind of putting more into the Undertaker character.
Which in a way, I kind of feel like they humanized him, but in a very dark way.
Oh yeah. Like a cult leader.
Yeah.
With almost like mysterious powers to him though. Like he's not like he's human, but he's not one of us either. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
There's something off about him,
Yeah. And that's why he's a legendary character.
Yeah.
So, and I'm pretty sure we've said this, and I'm pretty sure like everybody else in the world has said this, but like, does that character work with anybody besides Mark Calloway?
No,
not that exact character. No,
probably not.
No, because you've had your argument about, who's the new, modern day, like dark character. Like some people have said it should have been Aleister Black, Malachi Black. It should have been Bray Wyatt, but Undertaker was kind of the archetype for that.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I didn't think about this until you just said that. But like, where are all these dark characters now? They're not on TV. Like Undertaker was on TV for a solid 30 years.
I feel like I feel like it died with Brody Lee.
Yeah. Well,
a little bit.
But that's what I'm talking about. Like now, like who is there anybody that can portray that character with the kind of longevity? Like, and obviously, and I hold on, because I'm gonna say Undertaker's longevity is freakish. Obviously, the fact that he stayed for as long as he did is just freakish on his own. But like, can anybody really play that kind of character for 20 years, for 15 years, for 5 years?
Forget a character staying relevant for that long is very difficult. Who stayed relevant for that long? Like Chris Jericho, Randy Orton might be creeping into that territory.
John Cena,
right?
Steve Austin, Rock.
Right,
but actually, Rock left to go to Hollywood before.
Yeah, right.
And now he's relevant everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, you can count on one hand, maybe two hands, count to 10 the number of guys that actually stick around for that long period. You're talking about a specific character; it's never going to happen again.
But like, we haven't even had a 5-year run of somebody doing a character like that. Like, think of like the Fiend was only around for what, 2-3 years tops.
No, not right. Like the actual Fiend, it's like Bray Wyatt was.
Yeah, Bray Wyatt's been around for a while, but Bray Wyatt's had gone numerous gimmick changes, and granted, so did the Undertaker. Right. But I'm talking about like when Bray Wyatt really dove into that, like kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Supernatural kind of being of a gimmick, like the Undertaker was. It didn't last that long. He was gone, and again, we can sit here all day and debate whether or not we think WWE made the right choice there anyway, because I know a lot of people don't think that they should have released him anyway.
Right.
But I'm just saying, like, you don't see a guy running that kind of character for more than, I'd say, 2-3 years at a stretch. And then they seem to be either written off, fired, or completely come up with a new gimmick.
Yeah. I think it's also like it's probably just overexposure now. I mean, even if you want to argue the 90s had the same sort of TV time ish, now with social media, more people talking about it, more people hearing about it, you get a little burned out a little quicker on characters than maybe you used to 20 years ago. But still, it's difficult to do. It doesn't make it easy. And if you introduce the Undertaker today, that shit wouldn't last anywhere near that. Anyway, he ain't last until 2052 if you introduced it today.
I think
not a chance.
Even if it was more Calloway?
I don't think so. I just think the timing of it was perfect back at that time.
I think the closest you were going to get was maybe Tommy End.
Yeah, but
true
again.
But you're not.
Yeah.
Tommy End never got TV time. Malachi Black did, but Tommy End was never on TV.
I mean Malachi Black, Aleister Black.
No, I know what you mean. I'm just saying, like, either way, like, even the Malachi Black thing, they built him up as a monster. They had him squash Cody Rhodes.
I also just think times have changed. I think there's still people that want the creativity of like those characters, but there's a lot of wrestling fans that don't give a shit anymore. They just want like good matches.
Wrestling. Yeah.
Like I think a lot of it's shifted.
That's why you see guys like Daniel Garcia is so over right now. FTR are so over right now because like they're respected for their work, and you can tell that these guys are some of the best wrestlers in the world.
And I think a lot of it now leans toward that versus I think when the Undertaker came around, perfect timing. People love the characters. Not that the Undertaker was a bad worker by any means or had bad matches by any means, especially in that time. But
he did work with Mean Mark Calloway.
Well, there you go. But people just didn't care as much then. They're like, "Ooh, this character, he's legit scaring kids," when he first debuted. So there was something about it.
He ended Hulkamania for about a week.
Well, I mean, right. Come on. That jet ski did more damage to Hulkamania than anything else. Anyway. But yeah, no, like the Undertaker character never happening again.
Whoever gave him that black eye did more damage.
And a bunch of Marines took Shawn Michaels' smile.
That too.
while we're at it.
Let's move on to another faction because we'll get lost in this.
All right. Well, let's bring it back. We've been talking about the 90s a lot, right? So I want to bring it back a little further, guys. Let's talk about some old ones. All right. Let's talk about one of the best factions of all time. Obviously, numerous variations of them throughout the years, but you cannot talk factions without talking about the Four Horsemen. What do you guys think of the Four Horsemen? Obviously, Ric Flair led group.
I mean, the Four Horsemen with Jeff Jarrett and Mongo McMichael is clearly the best.
Mongo McMichael is definitely the best member of the Four Horsemen.
I mean, let's not forget about the
Poor guy, by the way, has got ALS.
the one
which
with
is not
D,
great.
the one with Dean Malenko and Redacted.
Yep.
See, and I don't.
Redacted is also a member.
What year was that? Because I don't remember that.
Oh, that was in WCW. I don't know what year.
96, 97.
Was it that far back? I like.
Yeah, it sounds about right. But yeah, all right, hold on. So, does anybody have a favorite actual foursome? I mean, like, I'm a big fan of obviously. Like, honestly, the originals.
No, phrasing.
God damn it.
I'm a big fan of most of the ones that Raven had.
No, give me Rick, Arn, Tully, Ollie.
Oh no, we're talking about the Four Horsemen still. Sorry, I thought we were talking about favorite in general. No, the original. You don't top that.
Agreed.
Obviously,
and the feud and the feuds at the time worked. You like Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, and all that.
Yep.
Like it just it was a perfect storyline for that time. Listen, I don't need to go over all the fucking promos. Like they speak for themselves. But
by the way, I love looking
rich guy, common man, easy story at the time.
An
easy story now.
Those guys, obviously they had the whole gimmick with the jet flying limousine ride and yada yada yada. But like, they really were. Ric Flair really was obviously the biggest draw in wrestling back in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
And to have those guys kind of riding your coattails, man, like, could you imagine the stories that those four must have had back in the old NWA and WCW days? And man, even before that, the territory days, because I'm sure that they all were in the territories together too. But
could you imagine if cell phones existed and media existed?
Oh my God, forget about it. There'd be a lot of Ric Flair sex tapes out there.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. And he would be looking at the
camera.
Baby
Doll's gonna ride on Space Mountain.
Woo! And he would look at the camera directly and say and do that.
Make eye contact while he says it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
There'll be sex tapes of him, and he'd be like, "Really? Those are the only ones you can find?"
He's like, "I got about like 160 more of those."
He'd be doing the right. He'd be doing that in the sex tape.
Yeah.
By the way, I love how I'm looking at who's been in the Four Horsemen, and the Four Horsemen had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 people in it at any given time.
12. Yeah. Huh? I'm actually surprised it's not more. I thought there was actually a few more.
So Ric Flair, Arn Anderson,
yep,
Ollie Anderson,
yep,
Barry Windham, Sting, Sid Vicious, Paul Roma.
I only know that from like documentaries I've seen where they're like, Paul Roma, what the fuck were they doing?
Oh, by the way, I just realized
what were they doing with Mongo?
Hold on.
Talk about Paul Roma. Fuck Paul Roma. We're Mongo.
Redacted. Mongo.
Flying Brian.
Mongo like cake. Mongo only pawn in game of life. Wise words. Kurt Hennig and Dean Malenko. Because I totally forgot that. Well, no, I totally forgot that this one here is just 90s Four Horsemen.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you didn't say Tully, you didn't say JJ, you didn't say.
Yeah, no. I'm sorry, I'm looking at a 90s lineup, and boy, this is just weird.
It's rough. Well, listen, WCW did some weird shit.
Yes.
And they were like, Four Horsemen, just
Sting was a horseman. That's enough. That's enough to tell you something fucked up. Someone fucked up.
That comes back to my initial point of factions of being like trying to get guys over, whereas like with something like Evolution, it worked. Whereas all these horseman variations in the 90s, it did not.
Yeah. Plus the Four Horsemen being around the 90s was overshadowed by
some other faction in WCW.
What could that be?
Should we just get into it?
Let's
Might as well.
Let's keep it as brief.
The NWO Wolfpack.
I'm gonna say this. We do not have the time to read every member of NWO ever.
I just said the NWO Wolfpack.
Yeah, let's just talk about the Wolfpack. They're the
Okay,
important
yeah.
ones.
Yeah, we don't have time to read off all the members.
What about
Kevin Nash.
what about,
About
the
the
LWO?
LWO.
You son of a bitch.
Motherfucker. What about the BWO?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's
That
a good.
is a good one.
That is a
That's a
quality
great stable.
stable.
That's a great stable.
Remember that time that Blue Meanie got to basically hit JBL
Mhm.
with the chair as hard as he could.
That was Stevie Richards, but it was in Blue
Oh,
Meanie's
right.
match.
You're right.
Stevie Richards creamed the fuck out of JBL, and that was a receipt for one night stand.
I was about to say that's what you call a receipt in this business.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
But-
Stevie Richards like, you gonna bust open my friend? Motherfucker swinging for the fences.
I just
He,
heard
he crushed him with that chair
So
shot.
the BWO was Stevie Richards, Blue Meanie, and
Nova.
yeah, Stevie Richards, Blue Meanie, and Nova, aka
the BWO. Oh no, Simon Dean.
thank you.
Okay, yeah.
I was like, you'll get there. Come
wait.
on.
Was he the one that said he would take a bullet for Tom and put a bullet in Bruce?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
Yes, that is true.
Yes.
I heard I just randomly stumbled upon some Blue Meanie interview clip the other day where he was on, I guess he was doing, what was he doing? What was the shit he did with Goldust? What was his fucking name?
Blue Dust.
Blue Dust.
Thank you. I don't know. Yeah, that's fucking obvious.
That escaped you?
Somehow it did. I don't know why. Don't know why. Oh man.
Yeah, I
just-
remember Blue Dust. Blue Dust was funny.
And he did, like, Goldust was setting him up for the kick on the rope, and now I'm forgetting what that's called. My brain's terrible
Shattered
today.
Dreams.
Thank
Shattered
you.
Dreams.
And he said thank God Raw was taped, because he said his nuts fell out of his pants as he was sitting. like,
Yeah,
with
yeah,
his
yeah,
legs
yeah,
straddled
yeah.
over the
Shorts,
second
yeah.
rope. God damn. That's
Your
fucking
balls are showing.
Was that before or after Tafka Goldust?
The artist formerly known as?
after.
I think it was after.
I think it was after.
Yes, that was an awful gimmick.
Speaking of nuts out, remember Tough Enough when Triple H told that dude that his nuts were hanging out?
Yeah.
He's just like, by the way, your nuts are hanging out of your shorts.
Man, your nuts are out.
Imagine being told that by Triple H your first day of like trying out for WWE.
I mean, there's a reason the guy didn't,
Didn't make it.
listen, he's memorable though.
That's true.
Like, I remember, right. I remember this random shit.
Name every member of the LWO.
Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio,
I'm out.
Juventud Guerrera.
That sounds right.
I actually need to confirm this.
You're shaking your head like I'm right here. Am I 0 for
No.
3?
I didn't shake my head.
That'd be funny if you're 0 for 3.
No, you made it seem like you didn't have the list up or something.
No, I don't.
Can you hold on? Before you name more, can you give me like a total number of people?
12. You're
What
not
the
gonna.
f-
You're
what
only
the
gonna
f-
know. You're gonna.
What the fuck?
You're only gonna know
I didn't
All
even know
right, I'm
WCW had 12 Latin people hired.
Okay. I'll just keep going with this then.
4 to 6 of them. You'll
Okay.
probably know.
Psychosis.
Who'd you say already? Eddie
Hoovy.
Eddie Ray.
Ray,
Hoovy and
Hoovy,
Psychosis.
Psychosis. You
Ultimo
might-
Dragon. No,
Yeah.
wait.
Conan.
That's not.
No,
that's
Conan
not-
wasn't in LWO.
How?
unless his name was something different.
I
There's
don't
no
think so.
fucking way Conan wasn't in LWO. Conan is
Conan's-
like the most Latin wrestler of all time.
He's been in every fucking Latin
Every
stable
Latin group
ever
ever.
that's ever existed.
I don't see anything about him mentioned.
Okay. I don't know why I said Ultimo
Chavo,
Dragon. That doesn't make
actually.
any fucking sense.
Chavo wasn't allowed in.
He wasn't allowed in.
Apparently, he was. The reunited NWO also betrayed their only Latino member, Conan, who objected to the brutality used against them, but he never
Hold on.
actually.
I'm going to throw this out there. Mike Awesome.
In the
I wa-
LWO.
I wanted to name some fucking random white guy that I could think of in WCW at the time.
No,
I'm
there's
As
no
a
only
group.
gonna
random
say
white guy.
they probably only didn't let Chavo in because he probably introduced himself as Kerwin White. But
I mean, it does say
That's-
here because in storyline, Eddie thought that Chavo was mentally unstable. So there you go.
Okay,
Okay.
fair. Who else was in this fucking group? This is like driving me crazy, but I don't want you to tell me yet. But we're
I'm
also
a little upset that Kerwin White didn't get more of a pop.
listen. I would have popped if you said it unsolicited here, but my brain's like stunned. I can't get past 12
I feel like
people
the
in
only
LWO.
other ones you might have even heard of are La Parca
Oh yeah.
and Hector Garza.
Oh yeah.
You might know his kid.
I was gonna say his son. It's Angel Garza, right?
That's right. Well, I think it's very underrated, by the way.
Oh, Angel Garza is great. I haven't seen a lot of them because I don't watch a lot of WWE, and I really should. But every time I've seen him, he's been fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes.
But man, the LWO, what a fucking. But all right, but seriously, the NWO. Let's we got to obviously touch on them. Biggest
Virgil,
faction.
my favorite member. I thought you were about to ask my favorite member.
You mean Vincent?
Yeah, Vincent. That's what I said.
Not that Vincent.
No, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
Listen, it changed wrestling. I mean, NWO is the most influential thing in wrestling. Probably it certainly started the Monday night,
man.
Right, started the Monday Night Wars. Hulk Hogan turns heel for the first time. We know the whole story. We know it had fucking 80 members, but it makes sense if the
we know they had their own pay-per-view.
Right, they did,
which was
sold
awful,
out,
which was awful.
Right, awful. But
that's why we didn't get NWO Nitro.
Aside from the main three,
or was it NWO Thunder? One of the two.
Who else in NWO was like it was like, oh wow, this is kind of cool. It wasn't just like, all right, this of course this fucking guy's here. Here's now.
The answer's obvious. Fake Sting.
I think the early days of NWO, like when you actually still had that wow factor to it when they got new members, but I think like it just reached a point where it was just like, who cares?
You know what? Something I think gets kind of overlooked. The fact that Eric Bischoff was involved as an on-screen authority figure with the NWO long before we got Mr. McMahon.
True. Was he?
Yeah.
I just think he didn't really feud with anybody though. It was like,
he's just kind of a mouthpiece.
Right, but it's like if you had Vince McMahon, but you didn't have like a Stone Cold to kind of have a feud to turn into, with what that was at the time. Like, are we?
Well, nobody could feud with the NWO while Hulk Hogan was literally holding the title in a death grip for fucking 10 years.
That's true too.
Well, okay, with you had brief stints with let's see, the Giant was in here.
He did win the world title. That's right.
Yeah, and then lost it to Hogan at Hogwild. Is that the name of the pay-per-view? The pay-per-view at Sturgis.
I'm pretty sure it was either that or like Road Wild or something.
Which part of me would be intrigued to kind of just be there for that.
A Sturgis wrestling show?
I don't know.
A Sturgis WCW pay-per-view.
I was at a Warped Tour wrestling show. They had GCW there. That was pretty fun.
Okay.
I got to see my boys Jimmy Lloyd and Steve Sanders wrestle.
Nice.
Yep.
But wait, I'm trying to look at some people here. So we had Hogan, Dash, Hall. Ted DiBiase was the mysterious benefactor, wasn't he?
I mean, probably.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
No, I think so.
Maybe not mysterious because they came out and said Ted DiBiase, but
mistake me if I'm correct me if I'm mistaken. Didn't we watch on a watch along the kind of Ted DiBiase kind of debuting himself as the benefactor of the NWO? Wasn't that during the Razor watch along? We were watching an Outsiders match.
Oh, that happened during that match?
I don't know if he debuted, but he definitely came out and was talking about how he's financing the NWO. Like I remember watching the promo. It was like right before the match.
Because it was them, it was the Outsiders versus the Harlem Heat.
This is your job. Yeah, Harlem Heat. You're right. Yep. And I remember there was a Ted DiBiase promo literally right before that match when we did the watch along.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right.
I think you're right. There was like that, like a promo or something, whatever the hell he did.
But
you're right.
I'm looking at some other names here. Six.
X-Pac.
X-Pac.
Sean
which
Waltman.
he was basically the cruiserweight representation.
Right, which made sense.
Kurt Hennig.
Mr. Perfect.
I wouldn't even argue at that point. It was just a lot like who cares? It just like the star status of the guy almost didn't matter at the time. It was just like, all right, this is already getting to be too much. Could you imagine DX having, or like maybe the DX, but like if the corporation was having like someone new every fucking week, like the NWO.
I mean, the corporate ministry was half the roster.
It was, but it was thankfully like sort of short lived.
Yeah,
but still, I hear you. I don't know. It was
Well,
just the NWO.
Don't forget the other. Don't forget the other huge name that joined in there. Randy Macho Man Savage. Ooh, yeah.
You mean Bonesaw?
Bonesaw McGraw
broke his neck just to job out to Peter Parker. Oh no!
Bonesaw is ready. I fucking love Bonesaw.
Well, fucking can we just discuss Peter Parker getting into a cage with Bonesaw McGraw just so we could win some money to try and get laid? That whole purpose was money to get a car so he could go on a date.
Yep. And his uncle died.
Yeah.
And that happened.
Sure did.
I always find it funny when I remember that Miss Elizabeth was part of the NWO.
I mean, it makes sense.
I mean, Macho Man was, so.
Right.
Yeah. It's just funny. I don't know. Something about Miss Elizabeth being heel to me is just amusing.
Well, when you watch her initial run, it seems impossible that someone like that could be a heel.
But then again, Hogan.
How you guys feel about NWO B team? I always thought that was a good squad.
Who was in that?
There was a subsection of the NWO that they literally just called the B team.
Like, what do they just show up at house shows so they could do the NWO entrance and play the music?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, just so they could use the music and
like,
Hogan didn't have
well,
to.
I wasn't there. I think there was an NWO Japan too because they worked with.
What in the fuck?
Well, because they had a working relationship with New Japan. I mean, we got a couple pay-per-views out of it.
No, I get it, but like, it's insane to me how deep this truly went. When you really look it up, you're like, what?
We are really through the looking glass on this, guys.
This is a deep dive on the NWO right now.
I mean, we didn't even talk about the Wolfpack yet.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, we could do it
because it just got so ridiculous. Like, it made sense at the time. We're like, all right, this whole fucking group is big. Now we got to split this group up, and then these guys can feud, and
now we got to give them a pay-per-view.
Right, and then at the end of the day, finger poke of doom, we're all friends again.
Yep.
That's how it went. I don't know.
Well, also Scott Steiner was in there, and I guess that means you have a 33.33% chance of joining the NWO.
That's a fact.
I mean, it's more like, whatever. I don't know the specifics of the Steiner math promo that I can rip off the top of my head, but whatever high percentage he came up with, that's the chance you had of joining the NWO.
Steiner had 133% chance of joining
the NWO, right?
I don't know. Also, quick side note: Braun Breaker broke out Steiner math on NXT the other night, and I'm officially a fan.
Yeah, I mean that was a long time coming. I'm happy he finally did it.
And the way he looked, like the look on his face, he knew. He was like, "Oh, they're gonna love the shit out of this."
Yeah,
and it got a Steiner math chant.
Nice.
So
nice.
Such good shit. Final note: that kid's gonna be big one day.
Oh yeah, well we knew that last year when
they're
started
grooming him to be the next. I see him going over Brock Lesnar. There, I said it.
Not shocking.
Yeah. Anyway, back onto the topic at hand.
Let's move on to another one. We're all dying to bring this up. I'm just gonna say 3 words here that you'll all remember.
Mm-hmm.
Right to censor.
Yes.
Not the time period we're talking about.
Right to censor was in the 90s.
Nope.
When was it?
Summer of 2000.
Fuck out of here.
No, it wasn't. It was like 97.
Yes, it was.
I remember it feels like it was a lot.
Right to censor was in the middle of 2000.
Usually the guy about this. So
no, I vivid. You have to remember 2000 is my favorite year of the WWF. Of course, I'm going to remember.
So we got
with the Hardy. They won the tag team titles from the Hardys.
All right. Well, then I got a backup one. Here's one that we talked a little bit about.
It feels like that was like 97, 2000.
It does. It really does.
Nope. and it ended right after WrestleMania X7.
Nah, makes sense.
All right. So how about
Until
this
next
one?
time.
Here's one that I guarantee you falls into the realm. We talked a little bit about beforehand.
Mhm.
The Heenan family.
Yes.
Gotta talk about the
Let's
Heenan
go back to
family.
the 80s now.
We gotta talk about the Heenan family, baby.
Also, just every heel at times.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
At
It really
times.
felt like watching those old WrestleManias, seeing Bobby Heenan come out like 5 times. Like it's like he's coming out like every
was
match.
great.
Bobby Heenan.
It was great.
But I love Bobby Heenan.
And the other thing
commentary.
is,
Bobby Heenan got to ride in that WrestleMania car like 25 times.
by
Bobby
the way,
Heenan said "fuck" live on air on an episode of Nitro once.
you also
Or
have
Thunder,
to remember.
Thunder, I think.
You have to remember the Heenan family. First off, spanned a decade, and also spanned
Mhm.
the AWA, the NWA Georgia, the WWA, the original Georgia Championship Wrestling GCW, and fucking WWF.
Mhm.
That
Heenan-
is fuck.
Heenan
That
family.
Heenan's a goddamn class of his own.
Was one of the bigger things that whole Andre the Giant winning the title, Ted DiBiase buying it? Was that a Heenan family thing, or am I past that?
That was a Heenan thing.
I thought that was a corporation.
Was that $1 Million Corporation?
Oh yeah, maybe it was.
I don't know why that one just pops in. Only because I know Andre the Giant was
Well,
absolutely.
Andre, yeah. Andre was a Heenan guy, obviously. WrestleMania 3 is when he had the big, heel turn.
Mhm.
But you also got
I have a list of everyone here that
I was about to say you have Hercules Hernandez, Harley Race, which obviously you talk about Harley Race, like he's a legend. But a lot of legends here: Big John Studd, King Kong Bundy, Rick Rude,
Andre the Giant, the Colossal Connection,
the Brainbusters, King Haku,
the Islanders,
yep,
Haku and Tama,
Paul Orndorff,
Lex Luger,
Mr. Wonderful.
This list is insane.
Mr. Perfect,
Mr. Perfect, yep.
Rick Rude.
I said that.
Did you say Ric Flair?
I did not say Ric Flair. I
With
forgot.
a tear in his eye.
I forgot Ric Flair was in the Heenan family.
Yep. He had a tear in his eye, remember?
Yeah, I forgot. Well, I forgot Heenan was standing there because like Ric Flair's the one cutting the promo. Fuck Bobby Heenan.
Yeah. To be fair, I even have a timeline of all this shit. Ken Patera, Nick Bockwinkel.
Holy shit, Ken Patera. There's a name.
Yeah, Blackjack Lanza.
Blackjack Mulligan.
I'm looking. I wouldn't be surprised. Brainbusters, obviously. Bockwinkel, Mr. Perfect, Rick Rude, Harley Race, Big John Studd. I think you already said.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, it's fucking just
Goes on forever.
it goes on.
But I
forever.
mean, as you said,
it's
Skylar,
legendary.
He did it for years and years, and he did it not just in WWE. He did it in territory after territory.
Yep.
Literally a 20-year run.
Yep.
Fucking
So-
man's a league of his own. Legendary manager, legendary commentator, you name it.
Yep.
Yeah, guy did it all.
Yep.
I feel like, but it's like not obviously the Heenan family was of course a stable, but it more so felt like, he's just like managing all these guys, and it is what it is. Like obviously, like you can sort of put like, I know Jimmy Hart didn't have like an official like stable, but it was sort of like the same deal where it felt like Jimmy Hart would just like manage like saying he would just he would just start coming out with like all these guys.
Well,
I literally watched
Jimmy Hart did lead one stable for a little while, or not lead, but he was part of one stable, for a little while.
But like I
Which
put on like
was going to be the next one I brought up, by the way.
Well, then go do it.
yeah, he had one. And I have one after that.
The Hart Foundation.
Another good one. A lot
The
of
new
different,
Hart
lot of
Foundation.
different variations.
The new Hart. Wait, the new Hart Foundation or the
new Hart Foundation. Obviously,
Right.
the original Hart Foundation was just Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. But in 1997, we got the new Hart Foundation, which included Owen, British Bulldog, and Flying Brian Pillman.
Yep. Which
I
it
remember
fit perfect.
hated the Hart Foundation as a kid
Because you live in the United States and they were huge heels in the US until
Yes,
they
they
went
were.
to Canada.
they
Again,
were.
that dynamics I don't think ever gonna happen again.
Now,
I
that
think-
being said, as much as I hated them as kids, obviously, as we all grow up, and I think this is fair to say for all of us, there's not a person on that list that falls into that
Right.
faction that we don't love as a fan.
Yes.
Right.
And Andy and I, when we were tagging together as a PRR, our finish was the heart attack. And we made a very subtle change to it, but one that I thought kind of maybe improved on the move. But Jim the Anvil Neidhart would usually hold him. Bret Hart would come up with the clothesline. Jim would drop him. I would drive down with him for the spine buster. So it was a little more combo move. As Andy hit him, I would just drive him down. But that was our finish for a good like 2-3 years. The heart attack. It was always fun setting it up too. Whenever we got to hit it, we loved hitting that shit. We got so excited when we knew we were hitting a heart attack.
I can see you throwing down a pretty strong spine buster too.
Oh, I listen. I'm a big man wrestler. I know how to do the big man moves.
Damn straight. I actually have one here that it's kind of that same time period, similar manager.
Well, wait, I know we brought up the 97 stuff. When Brett and Owen were feuded, oh my God, when they were feuding, Jesus Christ, when they were feuding in like 94, WrestleMania 10, was that, because that was still like a similar was that like technically the Hart Foundation, or was it not really?
I don't think it was quite so at that point.
Okay. It was just sort of, they were all just sort of there, and Owen I know the whole story with that, but I was going to say, it felt like they would have had the same setup in 94 as 97, although maybe was a British Bulldog there, right?
He was there, but
he wasn't. I guess he wasn't really. No, yeah, but I mean, I
really doing anything together though,
right? I mean, I agree. The 97 version is clearly the best. It would, and I wonder. I guess a fun what if, like, if Bret Hart doesn't jump to WCW, the screw job doesn't happen. I wonder if they keep that up for a little while long, if it does keep going.
The foundation?
Yeah. If it would have kept going after the fact, like, I guess it's curious where everything would have went had Bret Hart stuck around. Although I wonder if he would have been lost in the whole Steve Austin Rock, all that stuff coming up. But fun little what if. But because that 97 run was like short, all things considered, but that whole year is just so memorable.
97. It's got to be like my favorite year of all time.
It's definitely good.
All the good stuff happened in 97. It had the best wrestling. I mean, not really. We all look back at that attitude stuff and we all agree it does not.
Best main events.
But it had great main events. Some great wrestling, all the best video games, all the best music. 1997. If you're looking for like, hey, what's that old song that I really love? I bet you it was from 1997. That's all I'm saying.
It probably is.
I'm still a fan of 2000. I'll get to that another day.
Like next
week. Maybe. One staple I want to bring out that.
Listen, man, if you're talking about like a great song, like Tub Thumping by Chumbawamba, 1997.
1997.
That's a strong argument.
I get knocked down. Fuck yeah, let's go.
Fair use.
I told
fair
you.
use.
That's proof right there.
So the next table I was going to bring up was Camp Cornette. Motherfucker.
Come on, motherfucker.
I
fucking love Jimmy.
I love him. I know he's full of shit, but I love him. Owen Hart, British Bulldog, Yokozuna, Vader, and Mr. Fuji.
Wow.
That was good.
And Jim Cornette.
When you said like Jim Cornette, my first thought was instantly all that NWA horseshit they tried to bring in. But I know that was later than this.
Mm-hmm.
But no, this was all good. Yeah, no.
I totally forgot about that for a second.
Yeah.
One of the first things I remember watching was I forget, it was probably like an episode of Superstars and I can't remember the few, but I remember Undertaker tombstoning Jim Cornette and putting him in a body bag. And I just thought that was wild. I'm like, wow, is Jim Cornette dead? Why is he in a body bag? Why are people cheering?
Yeah.
Like, obviously not like I'm saying it. Clearly my 10-year-old and whatever 9-year-old brain being like, he's dead. He's dead.
I still remember like being in horror when they just hung Big Show from Hell in a Cell. So, years later, that image still haunts me. But
or when they put, I remember when they put, I know this isn't Cornette stuff, but when they put Midian, was it Midian on the cross and they like sacrificed him?
Well, was it Midian? Yeah, I guess. Is that what turned him to the
Sorry, not the cross,
we
the
got-
Undertaker logo.
Yeah, we're going back to the ministry here.
No, I know. Well, you just said boss man. I had to bring up the one other
Yeah,
thing.
no, I know.
But no, the Camp Cornette stuff, because all that was probably some of the best stuff in that, like that shitty 95 year
Yeah.
involved all those guys.
And
I mean,
Cornette, I'll watch Cornette on screen anytime. Just give him a mic or let him talk, and I'll just listen because it's hilarious. He's got like the best, like those like little Southern one-liner insults, like just some of the things he comes up with, like. And
well,
I'm sure
if
like,
everyone talks about like Jerry Lawler, like commentary from the 90s, but like whatever shows like Jim Cornette would do are funny if like the same amount of just hysterical, if not a little more than Jerry Lawler.
Can't even disagree with you.
Like obviously promos too, but just like when you say one-liners, I mostly think of like if you're just doing commentary for whatever bullshit show, he was right there.
No, but that's his thing, and he's got like all these like little quick insults, like just ready to go, and I think it's hilarious.
I have a quick side question.
Mm-hmm.
Did Jerry Lawler have like a stable of ECW guys during that little angle going on there?
He once managed
it's like RVD, Sabu, and someone else, I want to say.
Well, he did have a bunch of knights.
No, not that one. Not that one.
No, I remember he had RVD. I remember RVD solely because the whole gimmick was like RVD's too good for ECW, blah blah blah. I think that was at that time, and he's like, that's how he. That's how he got
work
the Mr.
yourselves
Monday
into
Night.
when you work yourself into a shoot.
Yeah, I think that was the same time. It might have been a little after the Camp Cornette stuff, though.
So, I have this very like, and I've always remembered this, and like I don't remember anything that happened after it. But I remember there being an episode of Raw where I think Jerry Lawler, like you guys said, he brought RVD on to Raw and was like, oh, this guy's from the extremely crappy wrestling, blah, 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 blah. And then he was gone. And then like the RVD showed up for like a week or two and then he was just gone. And I was like, who was that guy with Jerry Lawler? I had no idea. I didn't watch.
You know who RVD fought in 1997?
Yes, Jeff Hardy.
A very young Jeff
Harvey.
Pants Hart.
God
Jeff Harvey.
Was it Jeff Harvey? Was that the
Jeff
Jeff Harvey
Harvey
match?
That was the Jeff Harvey match.
RVD versus Jeff Harvey. Wow.
They had a couple other matches later on, huh? They might have been okay.
Yeah. What are those two kids up to nowadays, huh?
Moving on.
RVD's too busy partying it up at the Playboy Mansion now.
Yep.
If you told me RVD owned the Playboy Mansion, I would believe you.
I mean, I know he spent a lot of fucking time there.
I'm saying Hugh's dead, so
yeah. And I know he loves hanging out with multiple women at once.
He likes shit. He does that on Impact. Well, he did.
Yeah, well, good for him. It's good to see polyamory being alive and well.
I was about to say 2 women with him and 2 joints in his mouth.
Mm-hmm. There you go. It's the American dream right there.
I know we wanted to.
Moving on.
Skylar's like, yeah, it is.
Moving on.
I know we wanted to. Let's take some time and bring up the Forgotten Stables. That if you hear us say it, you're gonna go, "What the fuck was that? Why do I remember this?"
Let's go.
Of course, everyone remembers the Union.
The Union.
Do you,
off the top of your head, who was in the Union?
Ken Shamrock?
Test.
Big Show.
Big Show. Yeah, Big Show. Oh, Lance. Fucking Lance Storm.
Nope.
Fuck. No, that was
It's a big name.
Big name. Fuck.
Hold on. We had Test, Ken Shamrock.
It wasn't Mick Foley, right?
Mankind.
Mankind.
It was Mankind. I fucking knew it.
Mm-hmm. And I think they all carried out 2x4s. I want to say Vince was actually involved with them.
Didn't that last for a whole like 2 weeks?
Not even.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Not even.
It was one. It was like one show.
Oh my god! Hold on.
I personally like their theme music.
Do you know the full name of the faction? By the way,
I know it's something fucking ridiculous.
Oh god, is it? I thought it was just Union.
Not off the top of my head.
So only because I pulled it up and I know
it's something ridiculous. I know it's ridiculous.
I did not know this. So it's Union of People You Oughta Respect Son.
Yes.
Which put it together? What's the acronym?
Hold on. Wait, what was
I'm
it?
gonna I'm letting CJ do this one.
Okay.
No. What is it? Hold on.
Okay.
Because I
Union-
was too busy laughing at how long it was that I didn't hear the whole thing.
Okay. So it's union of people you oughta respect, son.
Up yours. Wait, no,
Thank
wait,
you.
hold on.
Thank you.
Yeah,
No,
up
you
your-
thank
yeah,
you.
yeah,
You
yeah.
got
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Here, the group formed May 3rd, 1999.
They were gone by May 4th, 1999.
yeah, right. There's really it just stops because it just says, yeah, May 31st, Mankind receives several sledgehammer blows to the knee in a hardcore match against Triple H. And it just kind of the group quietly disbanded.
Yes.
Good to know.
But man,
Yeah, that was one of the few groups that
They did get
corporate
a-
ministry feuded with.
they did get a pay-per-view win over the corporate ministry. It was the Acolytes, Viscera, and Bossman.
Here's one for you that I feel like had a lot of big stars in it, but really doesn't get talked about as much as a faction.
Mhm.
Before Paul Heyman led ECW, he led a faction in
Dangerous
WCW.
Alliance.
Thank you. Known as the Dangerous Alliance. As
Dangerous
Paul E.
Alliance.
Dangerously. Paul E. Dangerously
Mm-hmm.
That had some
managed
folks
a
in it.
group called the Dangerous Alliance.
That had some folks.
It was a
Yep.
group specifically designed to beat Sting, and it consisted of Ravishing Rick Rude, who's been in a lot of fucking factions, Larry Zbyszko, Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton, and a little name you might recognize, Stunning Steve Austin.
Austin. Now
Was it
that
the
was
Ringmaster?
now that was the
That was
that
before
was the group
Ringmaster.
that was the group that went into that War Games match, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, we were talking about that
Yeah,
actually.
that's like kind of the best WCW match ever.
I'll tell you what. You talk about the Heenan family lasting through different promotions. This started in the AWA, WCW, then of course ECW.
Yeah.
Yeah, dangerous. Paul Heyman has a fairly
By the
illustrious
way,
career
what?
Yeah. I
So
would say so.
I'm just gonna
Kind of
so
done it all.
outside of ECW. I mean,
I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
just-
list off the fact. I'm gonna list off the Dangerous Alliance faction that was in ECW while it was still Eastern Championship Wrestling. So it consisted of Jimmy Snuka, Don Morocco,
Mhm.
the Dark Patriot, which I
think was just the Patriot.
yeah.
no, Doug Gilbert. It wasn't
Oh.
it wasn't Del
Oh, wow.
Wilkes, the actual Patriot, and then
Yeah.
Eddie Gilbert.
Huh.
So that was, and then of course, he then had, Taz, Sabu, and 911 when
Yeah.
they switched it over.
Whose moveset consists of a choke slam,
Listen,
and that's it.
it works.
It's better than 20 unsafe suplexes that Taz is going to give you.
This is true.
And it's probably safer than Sabu's neck ever is at any given
This
point.
is true.
It just
True.
goes downhill. Like the whole thing. You want to take a double choke slam? You want to get suplexed by Taz? Or do you want to be like wrapped in barbed wire at some point? Because one of those
Do you
things is
want to
gonna
break Sabu's necks? Just get in a match with him. Seriously, I think Benoit broke his match. I want to say Jericho broke his neck.
happen. One that I feel is unfairly forgotten, one of my favorite factions, the Brood. Didn't get to talk to them about them yet, but
No, let's bring it up now. I mean, first of all,
I loved Gangrel. I loved the whole vampire gimmick, and I loved
Mhm.
like the bloodbaths, especially. Like I was a huge fan. Like whenever the lights went off and somebody would just be covered in blood afterwards, I was just like, "That's awesome."
well, I remember, not knowing the whole gimmick of it as a kid. They just dropped a bunch of, died with water or whatever they did. But everything about it, the entrance, the fire, like the spitting blood, the music was awesome.
Love the song. Like it's
That's
to
why
this day that
like when
that
Edge
theme
brought
is
it
one of my
back,
favorites.
whatever it was, like last
Yep.
year, it was just like, you watch it like, oh shit, like you fucking brought the Bruce shit back.
Here's a little
Um,
insider baseball for you. Before I actually started wrestling, me and Andy, as you guys know, we used to do the backyard stuff.
Right.
And back in those days, we had multiple gimmicks that we based on real wrestlers or just ideas that we had on our own. I had one that was very much based off of Gangrel. And that was the original actual, that was the name was Alucard Valentine, which Andy still to this day I think has in his phone for my contact info.
For you, that
But-
makes total sense.
Yeah, well, it's a big Castlevania mark, and I was a big Gangrel mark, so I was like, let's make a fucking Dracula character.
Mhm.
But anyway, that was one of the characters I did in the Backyard Days, and came out to the Brood music, and I fuck it because how could you pick better music than that?
Yeah, you can't.
I even did the Brood entrance one time, where we did a show in someone's backyard. They had an outdoor crawl space. So I told Andy, I was like, I'm doing the entrance out of the crawl space. Like, I heard the music start playing, and I popped the crawl space doors, and I came out.
Nice.
That shit was dope.
Do you have that recorded?
Andy might.
Oh, okay. We gotta have him
You're gonna
dig
have to
through
talk to
some
him.
stuff.
Yep.
There's our next watch along.
We gotta have him dig through some stuff. I mean, obviously, we know the story of what came of the members of the original Brood.
Yeah, like there's like
And the
new
Brood.
and Gangrel.
They're okay. Those guys.
Yeah. Speaking of the Brood, you can't, like, while we're talking about the Brood, you can't forget about the new Brood. And like, it's funny because like, out of all 5 of those people that were involved in both of those groups, the only one who really wasn't a huge star was the leader.
Yeah.
Go figure.
I loved Gangrel. I think Gangrel's awesome, but obviously Edge and Christian, Jeff and Matt Hardy, those guys all turned into superstars, and they all started in the Brood.
Yeah, no, listen, great launching point. Clearly, it's funny to think how they, like, Edge and Christian, they just didn't want them to ever talk. Which
they were silent for a while.
Which was a big mistake.
Right. Looking back, it's hysterical. They were like, no, you can't talk. We got to put them with someone. But also, if they're not in the Brood, like, would they have gotten over? You know what I mean? It's like, it's always a what if with wrestling. Like, would they have gotten over if they weren't in the Brood? If they just introduced the characters, like,
I don't think Edge was ready to be the talker.
They were trying their damnedest to get Edge over at that time, because Edge was like,
they were doing the vignettes for him before the Brood, where he was just sitting in the crowd.
Yeah, and
yeah, that's right.
For some reason, they gave him an Intercontinental title at a house show, and then he lost it back the next night on pay-per-view.
It was for the home crowd pop.
Yeah, and I remember somewhere, like, he was like a Sable's mystery tag partner because they were trying to make a huge deal out of it for like a pay-per-view.
If you listen to the Something to Wrestle deep dive on Edge, that podcast is like over 5 hours. That's all you need to know.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they get into a lot of like the Brood stuff, and the early like stuff, but
Sexton Hardcastle.
Exactly.
All right, who wins in a fight, Sexton Hardcastle or Terrorizing?
I'm going to take the week to think about that.
All right, have your answer ready for next week. We'll start the show off with
it. We'll do. Leave a comment, people. Who would win in a fight?
Who wins in a fight, Sexton Hardcastle or Terrorizing? Please cast your votes. We need to know.
Please tell us. Oh man, we got any others we want to talk about?
98% of the audience that listens to us just went, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
No, they should probably know who those two guys are. Who doesn't know Terrorizing?
Here's one for the forgotten about category.
Yes, please.
And I'm because I forgot about this until this just popped up on something I'm reading, and I'm just gonna read you guys the description here.
Oh, don't say the actual faction name.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
You know what? And I'm gonna see if you guys can guess what faction it is.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah.
In 1999, there's your first clue.
Skylar's gonna guess right away.
WCW created a Dollar General version of D-Generation X known as blank. The group included at times Conan, Rey Mysterio Jr., Eddie Guerrero, Billy Kidman.
Misfits in Action.
Nope. Juventud Guerrera and Disco Inferno. Mixing high-flying wrestling with juvenile antics.
No, Misfits in Action was a whole different thing. I know what you're talking about, Skylar. This isn't it.
Nope.
What?
Any more hints?
I that's all I got. I can give you the members again. Yeah, Conan, Rey Mysterio Jr., Eddie Guerrero, Billy Kidman, Juventud Guerrera, Disco Inferno, and it was a Dollar General version of D-Generation X.
Fuck. If it's not the Misfits in Action, I don't get. Oh yeah, no, that definitely isn't Misfits.
You want the
I
answer?
kind of do because I'm blind.
Just say it.
The filthy animals.
Ah, how did I not know that? How did I not know that?
Oh my god. That's
Damn. Well,
and
Hart,
then
time to go commit harakiri. See you later.
and then Skyler's gone, he lost it. Oh my god. Yeah, I just came across that and just started laughing at the Dollar General DX thing.
That's a good
but-
one. I always say grand value or great
and then
value.
I just came across another one that I completely forgot about until just now too. And I don't know how we didn't talk about these guys. After basically after he was kicked out of Nation of Domination, Crush formed which group?
Didn't I talk about
DOA?
them?
Yeah, we didn't talk about
Yeah,
DOA,
disciples.
did we?
Well, I brought them up during.
Oh,
They
okay.
kinda- They kind of sucked though.
Oh
looking
no, they were
back.
terrible. And Change tried to kill Vince or tried to do something to Vince McMahon and claimed he raped him.
Well,
Which now
it
tracks a
sorta-
lot better than it did when he said it.
It sort of makes sense.
Just saying. That could be
Mhm.
what, lawsuit 16? I don't know.
We're getting
Vince
up there.
McMahon's about to have more lawsuits than Ric Flair has titles.
About to have more lawsuits.
More
than,
accusers than
than
Deshaun Watson.
That beat me to it. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, I figured the same thought.
I think the best part of the Sean
More
Watson
Denny's
contract is that he can
waitresses than
only
Tiger
use-
Woods.
Wow.
Tiger Woods will probably tell me you got to bump those numbers up, pal. them rookie numbers.
Those rookie numbers. That's like only having one Denny's around.
We don't even have a Denny's around.
Is that one in Newburgh? Yeah.
It's not around. I don't want to go to Newburgh. I don't want to go to Newburgh ever.
I feel like I got this close to the mic. You know what I'm going to say.
Newburgh sucks.
Well, Newburgh parking lot does.
Oh, god damn it. How did I not see the parking lot coming?
Like as soon as you said Newburgh, anytime I do this,
Forgot about the Newburgh parking lot. Shout out to our boy Kyle. And John.
I think we need to wrap this up.
I'm out of factions, so unless you guys got one more.
I feel like all the ones we want to talk about start next year. Well, the next year after.
Yeah.
I feel like we covered a lot on this. We're 90 minutes in. I think we got a lot of facts. And we got the important ones out there. We got the ridiculous, forgotten ones out there.
Mhm.
If we missed something, please tell us in the comments, and we'll be sure to address it.
Considering this episode went an hour and a half, the 2000 to present day is going to be like a 5-hour podcast.
It could be because there's a lot going on. But yeah,
Might
no,
have to
next
break that into 2 parts.
Mhm.
listen, we know what we're doing. We'll get some prep done, and we'll see. We'll have to make a list in preparation for next week and see what we're at. And but next week, if you want to hear about those at the least those ruthless aggression era factions, you're going to hear about it next time on the 6-Man Tag Podcast. This was a good one this week. I think again, I feel like we started this Zoom meeting not having a topic for the week, and we turned it into 90 minutes because that's just what we do. We did it with the Gimmick Matches show where we pulled that topic out of our ass and we got 2 episodes out of it. And I think we're doing that here now.
Might have 3.
Possibly 3, right? At minimum 2 though. So again, if you enjoyed this week, which we hope you did, you should probably follow us on all our socials and subscribe to all our shit.
All of
You
it.
should. Yes, all of it. So I'll just go down the list. Twitter at 6-Man Tag, Instagram at 6-Man Tag Podcast. It's with the fucking number 6. If you spell out the word 6 and follow all that, then goddamn you. But the number 6-Man Tag on Twitter, 6-Man Tag Podcast on Instagram. Check the bios in both of those accounts because the link tree to all our shit is in there. You click that link tree, you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple. You can subscribe to the podcast on Spotify. You can subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. All 3 of those 6-Man Tag Podcast.
Just go ahead and just go ahead and hit subscribe anyway on all.
Might as
three
well
of them.
just go for the trifecta.
Just go
just
for the
do it.
trifecta.
Just do it. Again, last week, check out, we had our special bonus podcast, Dutch's Oven, with our boy Dennis talking to Dutch for an hour. 99 Wrestling, a lot of horror movie talk. It was friggin' entertaining as hell. If you need something else to listen to on this feed,
I've finished listening to that today, by the way, boys, and I got to tell you, it's a great episode. Dennis obviously did a great job. It's always good to hear from Bill, but like you said, not a lot of wrestling talk.
No, it was good though.
It was very good.
Is funny. Bill's a funny guy. They're both funny guys. Dennis, obviously a good friend of all of ours. He's a hilarious dude. So just them riffing back and forth, man. It was definitely an enjoyable episode.
My intermission editing was, I'll pat myself on the back for that too.
Top notch.
Okay. I'm hoping my Monty Python reference came across well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Never seen it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I know. I figured somebody would get it. But yeah, so check that out. Check all of our old episodes out again. Listen, this is episode 34 of this podcast. So we got a lot of content in the archives for you to go back and listen to. Besides the couple episodes we've done that were about current stuff, most of it still, I would say, still holds up. Even our WrestleMania 38 review, it still stands up. Holds up.
I think all of our stuff is the best stuff ever, and it always holds up forever.
This is the best podcast.
I am the cheese.
Damn it. God damn it.
When Dennis
I wanted to make the Wacky Deli reference.
When Dennis broke our hearts and said that he never actually has seen the Wacky Deli
episode,
and that he just quotes it because we do all the time, broke my heart.
And that's why we call him a cunt. Oh, you thought you were getting through this episode, Dennis. You thought you were gonna make it, but in the final hour, at the last minute, right at the buzzer, you're a cunt.
Oh man, took an hour and a half, but we got there. Also, by the way,
and it was all about the friends we made along the way.
By the way, also in the link tree, the Discord link's in there. Come start a conversation. We try and stay active. It's difficult though. I know I always forget.
I want to get some questions. I want some emails.
I know at some point. Yeah, please. I know
some stuff.
Fuck me. I never.
Somebody call.
I never plug the email address, 6mantagpodcast@gmail.com. If you feel like sending us a question or any business inquiries, if there's any sponsors listening that like this enough to give us something,
we will sell out for anything. If you tell me my dick is broken, I will tell my audience my dick is broken.
Blue Chew.
It's a cream, not
sponsor
pills.
Everyone.
I use them myself.
I have no shame.
You a doctor? Fucking right, I'm a doctor.
I got it wrapped up in this special CIA napkin. There's your Bingo Card Chappelle Show reference.
Oh man, we got two different ones too.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
The internet, and then we went straight to Black.
Wasn't that like the same character though? Or not the same character, but the same actor. Wasn't he the guy on the internet that said that shit too? I don't know. That's what made me think of him.
Because the doctor was that old guy. Oh. And I can't remember who says don't you dare drop that shit.
It's the old guy. It's the one. Let me holler you guy. Let me holler you. It's that guy.
You're right. Right. Oh, man. I think I got all our plugs out, but you heard it. Just hit that back 15 seconds button a couple times to hear it again.
And while you
guys get your shit out too.
While you're at it, check out the Paperweight Project on SoundCloud, Instagram, Facebook, and on YouTube, most especially on YouTube, where we will be putting up some videos, including the one that we've been talking about for a while now. We finally started working on it. It's not quite finished yet, but it's coming soon. Very special collab between Skylar and myself for the Paperweight Project and Six Man Tag meeting up together in a beautiful world of musical harmony. That's going to be coming to you guys soon.
We're going to be making some musical babies.
That's right. I know we've been talking about a lot, but if you want to check it out, and if you want to check out some of my other music, it will be on the Paperweight Project's YouTube. It will be on the Paperweight Project's, all their media. So check us out. Like I said, Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, and YouTube, the Paperweight Project. The logo is right behind me. I had to get my bike out of the shot. But anyway, that's all I got to plug.
All right, Skylar, what do you got? You got
Skylar.
your Twitch.
Twitch, Strange AFC. Probably going to play horror games in October because
That's a good theme.
That's
people
smart.
some people like watching horror movies. I like playing horror games. That's when I'm going to dive into Last of Us Part 1, Take 3.
Third console. Everyone shits on Grand Theft Auto for being
Auto.
on 3 consoles, but Last of Us is, at least they've released a new game in the process, but Last of Us is getting up there with the re-releases.
Yes.
It's that good.
Yes.
No, and so is GTA, but
I'm just saying, like, when I remember when Last of Us came out, I remember, and I said it to all the boys, like, when I played it the first time, I was like, this is the best game I've played in 20 years. Like, this is the best game I played since Final Fantasy VII. Hands down. It's the best video game I've ever played. Like, story-wise. And I'm a big story video game guy.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Same. Right. It's not a bad game, but
God,
again.
I'm gonna regret jumping onto Overwatch 2 this week.
Oh, fucking Overwatch.
I like Overwatch. Overwatch is a good
dude,
time.
let me know when you're playing Overwatch. I play Overwatch.
Dude, first off, it's free to play. Second off, Overwatch 2 comes out like Tuesday.
Oh, I don't give a fuck about Overwatch 2. I have Overwatch.
No, you have to give a shit. They're getting rid of Overwatch. It's just going to be Overwatch 2.
So do I have to buy it?
No, it's free to play.
Okay, then I should be good.
That's what I'm saying.
Let's play. I'm down.
Okay.
Skylar, let me know when you're doing that, especially on your Twitch.
And let me know when you're playing Borderlands.
We haven't played yet.
Okay, fine.
We just chelled for like the first time, like 2 nights ago, in like 2 weeks.
Okay, fine.
All right.
We'll play some Borderlands.
All right. Anyway,
I will always play Borderlands.
That's all of our plugs, I think.
We got them all out of there.
Good job, guys. I think, like I said, we had a fun one. So let's wrap this up.
That's a
Put
good
a little
one.
bow on it.
Let's do it. Listen, thanks everybody again. If you stuck with us this long, we're doing something right, because we're at this hour and 40-minute mark at this point, give or take a few minutes. But listen, we appreciate the support again. You know, like I said, 6-Man Tag on Twitter, 6-Man Tag Podcast on Instagram. Follow it, Linktree, all of our shit. Thank you again. Yeah, this is a good shit tonight. Again, we did factions today. Look out for more factions later.
What are you playing with there? You got
I'm tossing with this fucking chicken toy that
he's throwing his cock around.
Thank you. And on that, for Skylar, for CJ, I'm Mike. Peace, everybody. Cox. See ya.